Dr. Esther Zeledon, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited that we were finally able to connect amidst our busy schedules. So, I'm just going to dive straight into the conversation. You wrote a book about how to create your limitless life. And I feel like I use the word abundance and you use the word limitless, and the two can really go hand in hand. And I think limitless or abundance is so unique to each of us. And so I'm really curious what a limitless life like really means for you and the people that you work with.
Yeah, and they definitely go hand in hand. And I think that's the whole purpose of my book is that the limitless life definition is uniquely yours.
Yeah.
My definition of limitless is not your definition, which is why I really advocate against the American dream per se. Not so much that could be your version of limitless, but what I push against is that everyone should have that everyone needs to have and should have the same purpose or dream. Not
Mm.
necessarily true, right? You can have, like, I've worked with people, all spectrums, right? You have fishermen that their limitless life is being able to be autonomous, to protect the place where they live. They don't want to leave, right? They want to be able to bring visitors there, to transition from being a fisherman to ecotourism. And I've seen them create their limitless life and community through that lens. Or it could be someone else. Or it could be, for me, it's being the freedom of location and time. And so your definition of limitless is not necessarily, it could be financial, but it could be time related, it could be location related, it could be doing something that you feel passionate advocating, right? So the whole purpose of limitless is your own definition where you don't feel restricted, where your limiting beliefs are not holding you back, where society is not telling you that you can't do it, right? That whatever vision that you have for the feeling and impact that you want to create is has the abundance and the space for it to be created.
Yeah, and I feel like you have such a unique background. You've worked in diplomacy, you're the child of immigrants. I imagine that your own background really inspired this book. So I would love for you to just share a little bit about why the book, why striving for not anti the American dream, but creating your own. Like, what is the purpose behind that for you?
Yeah, and no, and thanks for clarifying that, right? It's like I'm not that it's anti, I'm anti the rhetoric that everyone has to follow it,
Yeah.
right? I think if it is that your dream, I fully support that, but it's really making that distinction. Is that my
Mm.
dream and ultimate? Yeah, so it really did come from my own story, right? And my story, if you read the book, it's crazy. I start the book with where I was given 3 weeks to live at 2 years old. And then my parents won the lottery, and with that, were able to save my life in another country. So I talk about all the craziness of the things that have gone through my life, from almost dying to then the whole losing, immigrating and losing everything that my family built, right? Of one day to the next, and then having to start over and rebuild. And but in that rebuilding process, I think the when you're in that survival zone, and I think a lot of people can relate to being in survival zone. That could be your own definition of whether that is, right? Whether you feel like you're not moving, you're stagnant, or maybe you are struggling like socially or economically. But in that survival zone, the thing that was pushed was you have to take advantage of opportunities. You need to advance the socioeconomic ladder, right? I needed to help my family and the people around me. So that made me pursue what society told me to pursue. And I think that's why I talk about the cookie cutter thing, is that I was like, okay, I need to follow this certain formula. Now, I'm not saying that the formula did help me in many ways, right? Get the foundations I needed. But I confused that with my purpose. And the thing is that both can live simultaneously, right? You can still live in purpose and still follow certain formulas of success. But at that time, I only thought there was only one way. And I lost myself in that journey, right? So then it's because then I followed whatever, all the different check marks. And I don't mean just check marks in terms of career fulfillment. I mean check marks in terms of like when you need to be married, or how you need to live your life, or what you can say, what it means to be a woman, how you have to express yourself, use your voice, right? I talk about it all in all different types of formats. It wasn't until I had all the check marks that society and everyone wanted me to have that I realized, wait, who am I? Because I have all this, but I still feel this voice in my head telling me this is not your alignment. This is not your greater impact. And it took me a long time to discover that. And then I realized by discovering that is that I had been always helping other people discover that, but really just hadn't given myself permission to discover that because I
Mm.
felt that I had to follow a certain mold and format.
Yeah.
And so the interesting thing is that once I discovered it, I got to live it and do it. I realized that since a young age, I always wanted to know about purpose, but all the books that you read about purpose are about like, find your purpose, discover yourself, but no one tells you really how to do it.
Mm.
No one tells you the questions to ask yourself. No one really tells you, what does that mean? And that's when you confuse it with these metrics, right? Oh, your whole purpose in life is to be a mother, or your whole purpose in life is to be this. And the thing is, like, all of us have multi identities, right? So it's not one thing or another. We're a series of things, and there's an umbrella that forms of our life, right? Or like we have a superpower in how we solve problems. We have a way of seeing the world, right? And then when I realized that, I realized actually everything I did was connected under an umbrella. So my motivation to write the book was, one, it's what I needed, right? A lot of us write books is what our younger self needed. And it was what my younger self needed. My younger self needed this guide to be like, these are the questions you need to ask yourself. This is how you find that alignment. This is how you can have that feeling and impact, right? With at the same time of also climbing the social economic ladder and fulfilling your needs. And I think like I needed that. And I needed someone that looked like me too, to be writing that book. All the books that I read about purpose for people who were opposite of me,
Mm.
and then I couldn't relate, right, to their stories or to their circumstances. So it's a part of it too, was to give a different perspective, right? So I even touch about what it's like to be a woman in leadership, right? What it is to be different, not be in spaces. Like you were talking about the diplomacy. I was like, it's 1.8%. It was 1.8% Latino and women. I was like a drop. So how do you go in? And all of us have been in spaces, right, where we're like the first there and the first to come in, whether it's in our communities, in our countries, whatever. And so that was the motivation behind it, and to provide people actually something tangible, the how to. I spent my whole life chasing, but how do I do it? How do I navigate the system and bureaucracy to make it happen? Because one thing is go after it, but then how do I take that first step? What does it even
Mm.
look like? And so I
Mm.
wanted to give people the resources. This is what that looks like.
Mm.
This is how you take that first step. This is how you operationalize your dreams. Because let's not like if we're all living our dreams, I honestly believe that there would be less violence, less anxiety, less division, because we'd all be aligned. Like I heard something recently. I was scrolling social media that somebody said it was like a post, and it said, "Oh, we can't. The reason we're in this is because the American dream is not attainable anymore. So we lost our purpose." And I want to respond and say, but see, let's go back to that concept that you're saying. It's because we put our purpose to that, right? And our purpose is
Mm.
so much bigger to that. We all have, whatever strata we are in, whatever our background is, we all have aspirations and purpose outside of our own professions or economic activity.
Mm.
And I think that we need to first go back to that concept of that if we don't make it, we don't have purpose. That's not true. Or even if
Yeah.
we've made it, we're living our purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I completely agree. There's 500 different threads of thoughts going on in my head right now as you're speaking. And I think almost every single one of us, and certainly the people who are probably listening to this podcast, have experienced that moment of, oh, I thought this would be the thing, or oh, I thought this would make me happy. And they feel like there's this numbness or this feeling within them of, am I on purpose? Is this what it is? This my happiness? Is this all that there is? I talk a lot about money mindset, and a lot of people attach their income goals to their purpose. And I think we also live, I mean, we could dive into a 3 hour conversation about this, but we live in a society, especially as women, where we have almost been taught we can be anything that we want, but we have to do it all in order to be that. And it's almost like we want to be a mom who's a stay-at-home mom, and we want to have the career, and we need to feel purpose-driven, and we need to make money, and we need to also make sure the laundry is folded. Like I'm just talking in generalizations, and also that's probably why it really relevant to me in my life right now. And it can also cause us to question, like, what is the thing that's going to light me up? What is the thing that is actually my purpose? And I think as women, we constantly or are often looking for that outside of ourselves in our goals and in our achievements, which then, of course, does lead to the anxiety or the feelings of not enough or burnout, like especially the burnout and the exhaustion. So, speaking directly to those women who are experiencing that either on a big scale or a small scale, what are some of those steps when they still do potentially have to manage their lives, their families, their careers, but they want to feel a sense of purpose? They want to feel inner fulfillment. Where do we begin with that?
No, absolutely. You touched on so many things. Like even the in the book I talk about how like the symptoms come up, right? Like at first, like I call it the pits, right? So it's like you procrastinate on like the like your own stuff, right? So we start doing all those other things, procrastinate on the things that really our dreams and the things that move
Mm,
us. Imposter syndrome, feeling time poor, right? Self-doubt. We can all relate to that. And then how it's rooted in the people pleasing perfectionism and overthinking, and we could spiral in that. And
yeah.
it's again, it's exactly what you're saying, the high functioning anxiety, the exhaustion, the burnout, all of it. And I think the first step is exactly what you're saying, is it's moving away from these metrics. And then we always, this is the other problem we have too, is that we want everything to happen tomorrow, right? It's that instant gratification. We're like, oh, we need to do everything and we need to do everything now. And so we overestimate what we do in 1 year, but underestimate what we could do in 5. And so a lot of times if people don't see like that result in a couple months, they're like, oh, forget it. See, it was never doable, never part of my plan. I'm just meant to be this X identity. And that's it, because couldn't get it. But instead it's like realizing, hey, actually not everything has to happen at once. So I like to do 5-year visioning with folks, right? So the first step I do is like visioning exercise, whether it's 20, 15, 10, or 5 years. Close your eyes. How do you want to feel? The impact you want to make, right? And so let's say we started at 20 years, right? And then, okay, once you have that visual, set a word to it. Now let's go at 15, at 10, at 5, and show that this type of movement and feeling and impact is incremental. And when you do that vision, wait, why can't I have that vision today? What's that limiting belief that's holding me back to make that vision a reality? Or what are the things I need to learn and do to create that? But it doesn't need to be next month or
Mm,
even next year, right? It's a process. We're in a journey, right? And so it's moving away from, like you said, oh, I need to be like X weight, or I need to be married by X age, or I need to have this thing. It's what is that impact and feeling? Because the what you leave behind is impact and feeling, not all these other metrics, right? The first exercise in my workbook is like writing your obituary, and people are like, oh my God, that's so heavy at first. But it's to get to people in that mindset of, if when it is actually your time and you write down your obituary, you've already left feeling an impact, right? And because we're always chasing the next thing. So it's also grounding on, you've already accomplished a lot, right? So it's like even recognizing you are accomplished, you are worthy, you've been worthy, right? If you reject the test, you have already feeling an impact, right? It's just elaborating that, it's building that, it's enhancing that more. So then you have a chance to rewrite it. What do you want it to say? How do you want to enhance that? And the next step is like unpacking your own superpower. I think a lot of times people hold a lot of weight to the accolades. And
mhm,
that's what I've healed from. I've had every accolade known to man, right? Like I feel like I've gotten the PhD, the highest awards of the agencies, right? All these things, but that's not what gave me fulfillment, right? The fulfillment and abundance came from the feeling and impact and when I was serving, right? Other
mhm,
people in the way I wanted to serve. And so another exercise I have is like a simple one, right? Text 5 people in your life that don't know each other since you were 7 and ask them, how have I impacted you, when, and how? And when they write to you and they don't know each other and they've known you your whole life, when you get back, the responses you'll see are very similar.
mm,
So you have this gift you've already been giving, right? And so I think first, like always, my first step is like almost like a grounding moment of, you are already amazing, right? You are already so powerful. You have already impacted, right? But you haven't stopped to even recognize and celebrate that. And now that you can have some clarity on, look at how I've impacted, when and how. And then I have this other question I ask about, if you had $40 billion, what would you do with it and how? And that kind of tells you how you solve problems. that's also connected to the answers, you come to the realization how I solve problems is unique to me. That's what people come to me for. That's how I give impact. So it doesn't matter where I take that to, right? Like your business, if you're a business owner, that can take shape. If you're a mother, that can take shape, right? Whatever you are, you can change careers. You're always bringing that how to with you. You've been bringing it since you were 7. You're going to continue to bring that. So then the question comes to, how do you want to continue bringing that impact and feeling? And so it's not so much a tied to a metric, but more about how you want that impact to visualize. And then what's nice about that is that you can attach certain goals to that impact and feeling, but it makes it much more makes it much more flexible, right? It makes you much more open to synchronicities. It makes you open to different opportunities that could come, right? Different ways that you can keep giving this impact and feeling. And it also lets you know how you do that every single day. And that's the alignment we
Mm,
seek. We want to be
mhm,
valued and appreciated every day. You could still reach those destinations. That for me is okay, that's about the legacy you want to leave and, the empire you want to build.
mm.
But in the meantime, how do you want to be valued and appreciated every day in that journey?
Yeah. Yeah. I resonate with this a lot. And if I get personal, like definitely the 5-year vision really supports me. And I think it will support everyone listening because I am a high achieving woman and I am the let's achieve this month type, especially let's achieve this year. And the truth is, like, I'm fully in a season of motherhood. And that was a really not that wasn't a difficult transition. That was definitely like part of my purpose. But as a high achieving woman, I still am like navigating what is my purpose because yes, my purpose is my motherhood, but also I need my purpose. Like mama needs to have her fulfillment and her goals and her desires. And I'm like still navigating how I merge that. And I think as women, we can get so caught up with just the day to day, like pack the lunches, get your kids to school, the laundry pile, what's everyone going to eat, and trying to hold space for our big goals and our dreams. And I think it's important for our well-being that we do feel on some level on a daily basis when we put head to bed that we have done something that feels on purpose. And so, how can we, amidst the life and chaos that often ensues, just come back and reground in I am on purpose right now?
Oh no, that's awesome. And actually, I completely relate to you, right? I have 2 kids and everything.
Okay. I didn't know if you were a mom, so
Oh no,
okay,
I
you
am a
really
mom.
relate.
I really relate. So the thing that I have also in the workbook, and I do this on my own too, is from that 5-year vision, you attach a word to it. So I have my 20-year word, my 15-year word to my vision,
Mhm.
10-year word to my vision, and my 5-year.
And they're
And
all
actually,
different. They're
they're
all
all
different
different
words. Okay.
because they build onto each other. So for example, like for me, I'm like, okay, the 5 to 7 years from now, I want to feel influential, right? And then
Mm,
in 10 years from now, I want to feel like I've built something and it builds on it, like a builder, but I'm building on whatever influential thing. And then, but the 20-year, I want to feel very different. I want to feel in the sense like a philanthropist. That's what I see in 20 years, that I've been influential. I've been able to build it. Then I have an advocacy thing. And then I can now, like I see in 20 years, I would love to meet that Jose Andres. He's the chef that does the world central kitchen, right? That's what comes to me,
mm,
my 20 years.
mm,
Now I move back to the next 5. I divide each 5 years into a word. Of course, it could change, but I'm like, if I want to become in 5 to 7 years influential, what do I need to do this year? And I realized for this year, my word is connection. I'm like, okay, I want really deeper connections. Like I need to fill my cup more. And I think that's where the motherhood piece for me comes in because I want to have my daughter's 11. She's going through the teen changes, and I really want to connect with her on a deeper level. And I feel like I need to be able to connect to then later be able to commit more time to being influential. So it's more like a 5 to 7 year word for
mm,
me. But going back to your point is when you do those words, right? You're committing to a feeling and impact for that year. So at the end, before I go to sleep, like I have, and I've been doing this for years now, so I keep all my calendars. I write how I lived that word that day.
Mm,
And that's what I celebrate. And so, like last year, my word was magnetic. Like I
mm,
really wanted opportunities to come and all that stuff. But then I had an amazing year last year. And I wrote down every time I was magnetic, whether I was like good with people or opportunities and this and that. But that's when I realized that, whoa, I was being magnetic, but it was coming at a cost of connection. And that's why this year I was like, this year needs to be about connection. And I need to have deeper connection. I need to think about it because the magnetic thing, almost like what I didn't realize is becoming too magnetic is also problematic. But I needed that experience to then realize what I needed this
mm,
year.
mm,
But in that, I wrote down every day how that happened. And then the year before, and the year before, and I even have like in my first year when I opened my social enterprise, I had freedom as my word and how I lived free, like in terms of
mm,
time or not worrying about finances, just like free in terms of like me. But by
mm,
doing that, you start tracking your commitment to your vision. And it could be something really small. Like me, it's, oh, I played Uno with my daughter, or I asked her about her day, or I connected with someone with my business, maybe with my social enterprise and my business more deeper and my purpose, right? Connection can mean your work can mean so many different things in all aspects of your life. But that is what I'm celebrating and that is what I'm tracking. And
mm,
the more you write it down, the more you encode it in your brain that you're doing
mm,
it, right? And after a month or two, you start seeing the accountability to yourself. Look, I'm doing it. And then as you celebrate more, it's more positive reinforcement. But it's also a reminder to you that at the end of the day, if you haven't done something that's to your word, okay, let's sit down. And even if it's a 5 minute thing, I'm going to do it. So it's almost like your accountability commitment to
yeah,
yourself.
yeah,
And that's something that's easy. Like it's something easy that if even if your life is chaos, it's something that you can commit to. And then you start to realize that even just 5 minutes a day action every day, those lead, right? It's like drips. It's like water drops in like a cup, right? Eventually it fills a cup. Eventually
mm,
it'll fill a jar, right? Eventually it'll
mm,
fill a pitcher. And those things will move you. And then if you get more time, you can do bigger things, right? But just start with that
mm,
small little action, 5 minutes that's leading you towards that 5 year vision that's broken down to your commitment to yourself for that year.
mm.
And then you start seeing it and it's amazing.
Yeah, it's almost like I'm hearing it's instead of us celebrating our to-do list, it's celebrating our like to-be list.
Yes.
Because I think it's, oh, did I do the laundry? Is the house clean? All of these things. Did I send those emails? Did I launch that campaign? Instead, it's how was I on purpose today? Did I
Exactly.
live in this way that feels in alignment with me? And I think that's the key is also like purpose is being in alignment
Yep.
with what it is that you actually truly desire. And I think both of our work is so much about supporting women in coming back to that central place of alignment in whatever way that looks for you.
Yes.
I'm curious what your thoughts are when it comes to purpose and alignment and making money. And especially in today's world, there is uncertainty. There's often uncertainty that everyone is living with in their lives. And do we connect our sense of purpose with making money? Is it possible to have our sense of purpose and maybe our career be separate in that way? I don't know exactly what it is that I'm asking, but I'm just like, you've combined the two, it sounds like, in your life. I think I have as well. But for someone that's listening, is do I need to burn all my bridges and just live my purpose fully? But I also need to make money. Like, how do we navigate that
Yeah.
and the real world?
Yeah, and that's what I help people with is realizing that it's not one at the expense of the other, right? And
Mm,
so your purpose is the whole combination, right? And I call it like the purpose sign. Like I build on other people's theories and expand it on my own. But it's the how-to that you bring in every day, right? So it's realizing what's in alignment with you. And that includes like your values, your how-to, what you want to be sought out for, the whole array of questions. But it's in that analysis of how you impact people and how you solve problems and your values. I then sit with people and do like analysis. Okay, do you see how, tell me about all your work experiences, all the ways you've made money. And then when they're talking about it, and let's say we sit down, then I'm like, okay, this is why this is, did you feel this and did you feel that? Like that misalignment or alignment, right? So let's say, for example, I'll give you mine. My values are meaningful work, contribution, right? And then I also have altruism, all stuff, right? When I have felt in misalignment is when I'm in something that's it's no longer meaningful work, or I'm only using one of my superpowers, right? So I have like my three how to is I first have to listen and bring people together, and then I create the operations like side of it, right? And the action planning for it. And then my third step for it of that is like I do like a strategy piece and like how to scale and like how to create that resilience. And that's like my model in the coaching. Now, if I'm doing too much, a lot of times people reach me out just for the operationalizing of it and want me to do that without the deep listening. And when I don't do the deep listening, that's not an alignment. So when I look at my career, if in the places I can't do that, right? So I do that analysis with folks to be like, one is to show them that you've been using one of your superpowers and some in your jobs and things, right? So if you want to stay in a job, like a fixed 9 to 5, it's finding the job where you can use all three of your superpowers. So you can find a job where all three will be appreciated and valued. So it's first debunking that and creating them resumes and CVs that are aligned to that. So as it is, like even if a person's, I want to work a 9 to 5, how do we do that? But let's say I also work with people who are retired, moms, things that don't want to go into a job. Okay, how do we get you in volunteering spaces or in communities where your three things are going to be valued and appreciated, right? Or maybe how can you build a small business that you can still make money with that, right? So you can make money on your how to, right? And it's also showing that everyone needs that, right? So your friends that you've helped needed it. The people that you worked with, they need it, right? So people, if you're serving and people need it, money will flow. And that's money flows when you are in alignment and giving your gift out to the world.
Mm,
And then in entrepreneurship, it's the same thing. If you're just following the trends or like in a social enterprise and not leaning into your own value add and superpower, it's not going to work for you because you're just following what you think you should be doing rather than leaning on what's already natural for you, right? So I even debunk a little bit those things and help them instead. Let's make money for you in a way that's natural for you. The solution you already give for people, people need it. So how do we create products and services of things that you can provide naturally because it's your gift and that people need? And that's like
mm,
the strategy side of it. So I'm really a believer that your how to can always make money.
mm.
It's just a matter of first you need to know what that is. And a lot of people don't know what their how to is because there's so much noise around,
Yeah.
or they think it's just one thing because that's what everyone sought them out for. But
Mm,
that's only one piece of it. Sometimes people have no idea on your other skills because, or your other superpowers. So sometimes that's a silent one that you do as a step by yourself that other people don't see. So it's first uncovering that and then uncovering, wow, a lot of people need that. And then how do I create something in a space where find the people that need it? Or
yeah.
look at wait, I have found people that needed it before because those are your
Mm,
friends and your people. So how
yeah.
do I expand that? So I don't, I've seen, even I've asked people and I've taken risk on folks, even when people are in job searches. And I'm like, can you please give me 3 months so we can find you that job in alignment? Let's just take any job, unless you, of course, if you have to financially. And a lot of them come up to me and thanked me after because they would have taken a job that wasn't in alignment with them. And
Mm,
instead they waited for the one that they can be their how-to self. And I even say, I don't know what's going to happen to my future. I've built something that I can bring my how-to, but I'm always like, I know my how-to. So let's say even if, I don't know, the world goes chaotic and I have to close my social enterprise, I know already if I had to find a job or do something else, I know, hey, I know how to bring people together. I know how to operationalize things and I know how to build sustainability and resilience. I could do that in any industry. It's just about packaging it. So I
mhm,
think it's also that too. It's so much unlearning limiting beliefs of folks
mhm,
because, oh, I only worked in this one sector or I've never worked, so no one will ever hire. And it's no, all of us have a unique way of solving problems with value add. And it's just about presenting it and
yeah.
showing and letting people know that we have it. People are not mind readers. They
Mm,
don't know. And money, I really believe abundance flows and money flows, but you have to know what are you asking for and what's
yeah.
the flow you're seeking.
Yeah. And speaking about limiting beliefs, especially with your background and the shifts and changes that you've made in your life, what were some of the limiting money beliefs even that you had to overcome to really say that with so much conviction and confidence in your own life?
A lot, a lot. Money, money. One, it took me so long. Even though like my job, I will say that the job I had before, it was very rewarding. But then as I moved up the ladder, I was doing less of my three superpowers. And I wanted to go back to that. But it was a lot of courage to leave that. And a lot of it was tied to the money. Because and one, as a mom, I have kids. I worried about putting them, I had everyone telling me that by doing that, I'd put them in a uncertain situation, I would harm them. And I felt that the decision wasn't just mine. And the limiting belief I had to overcome was that money couldn't flow for my purpose. And I think that's why I help people with that, because it was also that it's not a traditional thing. It's not like I have a clip to sell. It's not that I have something like that you would think traditionally. And so I had to really work on that and really believe that one, that people need this, that I've helped people with this, that people will appreciate and value it, and that I could do it. I had to undo beliefs of that one, that I couldn't, like, I associated even selling with like being icky. And I had to undo, because that's tied to money. And I had to undo that belief that actually, and change it, that selling's actually serving. And I had to undo that aspect of it because I didn't really have entrepreneurs in my family. I had to undo also the money belief of safety, that like a job was safety. And now we're seeing that more with the world, that's actually safety is an illusion, right? And I think then I created my own safety and basically of knowing who I am. And I think honestly, that was the risk I had my whole life, because since I didn't know who I was, always dependent on external things, whether it's the promotion, the accolade, the everything to give me that. And by shifting it to, no, I know my value and I don't need an external entity, I'm actually more safe now. I said, I know now I can transition to any type of industry because I know who I am. But I had to undo all that. And that money also, a big one, I know you talk about this too, is that it was that I grew up immigrant family. That's you have to put your head down, work hard, and only working hard and that one-to-one exchange is honorable money, or that's like money, right? And actually, you can be smart. Like you can actually be, you can offer things that you're using your whole life experience that require less effort and make more money, and that you don't, and that you can make money by resting as well too. And I think it was that I had to just work hard and one-to-one effort. That's the only way that I could feel good about making money. And then other things too, you come up with your own money narratives too. Like I think also I had to undo some of the entrepreneurship narratives that were given to me too, that I had to have one set of pricing, or that I couldn't do pro bono or low bono, that I would hurt my business doing that. And actually, I leaned onto my own intuition, my own human design, and said, that's not aligned with me. If I value altruism and all that stuff, I have to give flexible pricing. I have to tailor things to folks. I have to give pro bono. But I get to choose that, and that's my own boundary. But it doesn't, it's also even in the entrepreneurship world, there's these mindset things about money and goals that I had to then realize that's your narrative. That narrative may work for you, but this is the narrative that works for me. But yeah, it was a lot of work. The letters to money helped me a lot.
Yes, I was just going to ask that because thank you for being so honest and transparent because I think everyone can resonate with those, especially when it comes to the feeling safety. Because I actually think so much of our ability to receive more abundance and flow and up level our lives or our bank accounts actually begins in the nervous system and with cultivating an inner sense of safety. So I'm just curious, were there any tools or modalities that you use to actually try to really integrate this new nervous system response of safety?
Yeah. And there's a couple, right? So I think the first one, that's something like that inner work of,
Yeah.
that's what I like about the purpose thing is doing. That's why I like the texting five people, because I like giving people data on their own. That's not that you're testing, you're doing your own ground truthing. So I use ground truthing as a word. One, ground truthing like data, like you're reaching out to other people, looking at your life and realizing this, you are amazing, you are this amazing person. But I also do ground truthing, and ground, it's almost like honing in on your truth.
Hmm.
It's a double meaning word for me. And so I think that was a lot of that, creating that safety, the one of that, it's almost like confidence that it's okay, that I can create contingency plans, that I am safe, that my skills and my superpower, I can transition to anything. And I think that's that safety I had to create, that it's not tied to one thing. And I think
Mm,
that goes into that whole narrative. That's why they're tied, of being tied to one identity.
mm,
And I think we have to first undo that one identity we're tied to. That's why I tell people, even if you're going after the American dream, that can't be your full identity, right? You're multiple identities. We're all people of a lot of different things. We're a combination of things. And so first is undoing one identity, that you're multifaceted. You have all these different superpowers, all these different strengths. You've had it your whole life. So once you let go of that you're not just one identity, you can let go of the rest, and realizing that you are versatile. You won't even, like, challenging all those limiting beliefs. Oh my God, you're going to lose everything you built. No, like, you had a survival. I have this graph, like, you had a survival zone in the beginning, right? And you feel like, okay, this is survival. But then you had growth, right? You had ascension, you had growth, you had expansion. Even if you go through survival zone again, it's in
mm,
a different place. You're not at the
totally.
same, you have more experiences, you have more data. And so even if you go through it again, you're never going to go all the way
Yeah.
to the bottom. And that is the reprogramming you have to do with your nervous system, to realize, even if you're not in the same survival zone as before, and you're never going to be, like, and realizing that there is abundance, is changing from that scarcity to abundance mindset. And what can you do? And that's where my strategy point is. What can you do for yourself? I have this question, like, what have you overcome and what has helped you in the workbook? Doing that analysis, how can I, instead of using that in crisis, how can you do that every day in your life? That way, you're creating those safety nets for yourself, right? So you're creating, like, if what has helped you before is, like, for me, like, as a kid, I suffered with depression, and now I don't. But it's because every single day I read my testimonials, how I impact, right? That helped me before in crisis. Now it's part of my everyday schedule.
Mm,
So I'm not going to hit rock bottom again. So how do you create, now that you're aware of that, of when you hit rock bottom, how to create those safety contingency nets so you never have to do
mm,
that again? Or if, like, money's one of your biggest fears, right? It's coming up with the plan. So that's why a lot of my second part is that action planning, because the action planning is like that same thing you do with your nervous system and response. Like, people think, oh my God, I feel this urge to clean my house. And people are like, they think it's because you visually, but it's actually like a nervous system response,
mm,
right? And so it's the same thing, right? If you can clean all the thoughts in your head and map out how you're going to be living your vision, right? You calm yourself because there's a plan, right? Or if you have contingents to, oh, I fear losing my safety, but you make a plan that, hey, if that ever comes down to that, I have these resources. And,
yeah.
like, for me, I do have that money trauma. So I always have 6 months of emergency fund, and that calms me. But everyone
Mm,
is a little different. That's why I'm saying it's not, that's why I tell people to answer that question of what you overcome and how, because what triggers people to hit rock bottom in those narratives are different for each person.
yeah.
And so the things that you have to put into your everyday to caution yourself to create that sense of security is going to be unique to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love having that action plan in place ahead of it happening. That's a really valuable takeaway that I have from this. This has been such a powerful conversation. Like, I'm taking so many takeaways from this. Where can people actually like access this workbook that you've been talking about?
Yeah, and it's called Creating Your Limitless Life. That's the book. And then there's the workbook, and it's available at any bookstore retailer. So anything from Amazon, Barnes and Noble, local bookstores,
Mhm.
it's all over. And yeah, so it's online, digital, it's also physical, but they can find it
Amazing.
anywhere.
Where's the best place to connect with you and learn more about your work?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram. That's where I'm my most, I would say, active. And it's under Be Act Change. So it's be yourself, take action, because action equals hope. And then you can change the world and how whatever that means for you. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm under Be Act Change on Instagram. And then I'm also on LinkedIn where people, so either one that makes people comfortable to reach out. I'm very responsive. I manage my own platforms because I really, the community engagement is really
Mm-hmm.
important to me.
Thank you so much for joining us and just sharing your wisdom and your passion with us today. You can definitely
Thank
tick
you.
off connection today.
Thank you.
Yes.